It's very grassroots right now in Korea. Sharing the stories. We have so many stories, multi-unit, multi-brand franchisees. These are the stories that we're talking about here through this whole conference.
창업 직설이 드디어 미국 라스베가스에서 열린 2021년 MUFC 행사에 참석을 했습니다. 와, MUFC는 멀티 유닛 프랜차이징 컨퍼런스의 약자인데요. 2개 이상 점포를 운영하는 미국의 다점포 점주들이 1년에 한 번씩 모여서 서로 의견을 교환하기도 하고 네트워킹도 하는 그런 행사입니다. 다점포 점주뿐만 아니라 그들에게 잘 보이기 위한 프랜차이즈 본사도 총출동하는데요. 그야말로 프랜차이즈 한마당 대축제라고 할 수 있겠습니다. 아시아에서는 처음으로 저희 창업직설이 매체로서 참석을 했다고 하네요. MUFC는 역사가 무려 20년이나 된 유서 깊은 행사인데요. 보시는 대로 코로나19 사태에도 불구하고 사람이 진짜 많았습니다. 행사 규모 자체가 진짜 대륙의 클래스를 느낄 수 있었어요. 올해에는 600여 명의 프랜차이즈 본사 관계자, 그리고 700여 명의 다점포 점주, 이들 대부분이 메가 프랜차이즈라고 하더라고요. 그래서 총 1,800명이 넘는 인원이 모였다고 합니다. 진짜 보시는 대로 스케일이 진짜 미쳤어요. 호텔 입구에서 행사장까지 가는 데만 해도 무려 10분 정도 걸리는 그런 어마어마한 호텔을 4흘이나 빌렸는데 미국에서 프랜차이즈 산업이 차지하는 위상을 느낄 수 있었습니다. 굉장히 부럽더라고요. 한국에서는 상상하기 어려운 일이잖아요. MUFC에는 볼거리도 굉장히 다양했는데요. 전문가들이 무대 위에 나와서 프랜차이즈 산업을 주제로 의견을 주고받는 그런 자리도 많았고요. 여기 보이시는 분들이 100개가 넘는 다점포를 운영하는 점주분들입니다. 여기 던킨 회장인 나이젤 트래비스도 보이네요. 강연 중간중간마다는 저렇게 프랜차이즈 본부들이 제작한 광고 영상이 흘러나오는데요. 여기 앉아있는 사람들이 전부 다 다점포 점주들이잖아요. 그러다 보니까 광고 효과가 아주 직방인 것 같습니다. 메인 행사장 밖에서는 이렇게 소규모 강연들이 진행되기도 했는데요. 굉장히 다양한 강연들이 있어서 관심 있는 주제를 골라서 들을 수 있었습니다. 그럼 본격적으로 부스로 한번 들어가 볼까요? 진짜 굉장히 많은 프랜차이즈 본부들이 부스를 마련해 놨는데요. 여기 서브웨이도 보이고 사람 진짜 많네요. 한국에서 온 본촌 치킨, 여기도 굉장히 관심이 많더라고요. 멕시칸 푸드도 있고, 프랜차이즈 본부 외에도 포스기기나 솔루션 업체들, 보험회사들, 법률 컨설팅 업체, 이런 서플라이어들이라고 불리는 프랜차이즈 사업을 도와주는 기업들도 많이 참석을 했습니다. 그럼 이런 MUFC 행사는 누가 언제 어떻게 만들게 된 걸까요? 저희 창업직설이 또 MUFC의 창업자를 만나서 대한민국에서 저희가 또 단독으로 인터뷰를 성공했습니다. MUFC 창업자 인터뷰 영상 지금 바로 확인해 보시죠.
This is our 20th conference. A little history. My husband and I started Franchise Update Media 33 years ago. We were a franchisee of one brand that he operated, and I worked for a franchisor for 7 years. And the bottom line is, the franchisor that I was working for at that time wasn't treating their franchisees, so I left them. There wasn't enough real information for franchisors and people interested in buying a franchise, because we had gotten burned and we did a lot of research, and that we were going to launch our own company. There were more ma and pa ownership was the traditional way to grow. You wanted an owner-operator and just run that one business. The bottom line is, this is the recession of 88, around 9, big recession, where there were tons of layoffs of white-collar workers. We started noticing, because it was a more educated individual that had management, marketing, finance experience, one unit wasn't enough, and financially wasn't enough for them. They had the ability to grow more units. So we started watching that trend. Some franchisees adding units, they needed more education. We're starting to dip their toes into other brands. But franchisors of their primary brand weren't keen on that. there's an opportunity here to provide more education to multi-unit franchisees. Maybe they had 2, maybe they had 3 that wanted to grow. And then those that wanted to go into a non-competing brand. So we launched our first conference 20 years ago and had maybe 80 people. So we got the sponsorships and exhibitor. It was a very small exhibit hall. I think we had 10 exhibitors. And that's where you kind of roll the dice and say, okay, we're going to give it a shot. We're going to take the risk, right? So we launched Multi-Unit Franchisee magazine. And we were able to, because of the disclosure documents in the United States, franchisors by law have to list their franchisees. So we started mining. So we started interviewing franchisees. And that, as this grew, the conference grew. So now this magazine is mailed to 20,000 multi-unit franchisees in the United States only. This one doesn't make money. I'm done. We introduced 3-4 years ago a master and multi-unit conference in Europe. We had franchisees from, I think, 20 countries. We had a big franchisee from Japan, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, other places. So we will produce that again in Europe, probably late 2022. We're going to wait. We have to wait until, obviously, everything changed, COVID. Franchisees drove that growth. It was a more sophisticated franchisee. One unit
Wasn't enough.
It wasn't, and they had the ability, they had vision of taking over a market, growing, and then when they understanding a particular market and they're sold out, they know the market so well, they wanted to bring in another complementary brand because they knew that customer base there, if that makes sense. It was organic growth. It wasn't by design back then. If they want another brand, they're going to go find it. Whether the franchisor they're existing, today's franchisees, they're more financially sophisticated, technology. I don't know the marketplace at all in Korea. I'm going to jump to Europe. It's happening all over Europe. They're not as sophisticated with it as the U.S. is, but there's that growth pattern taking place in most countries there. Having 5 or 20, is now, that's evolving and developing. I think that encouraging, educating single unit franchisees that have the interest to grow and have the opportunity to provide more jobs. A lot of franchisees grew originally through private money, other family members putting some money. A lot of it was that when financing wasn't around. But money has been readily available in this country as the franchise model has gained more traction. It's very grassroots right now in Korea. Sharing the stories. We have so many stories, multi-unit, multi-brand franchisees. Maybe you take some of our stories and translate to give examples. Yeah, and I'm okay with you doing that. Just let me know and give us credit. These are the stories that we're talking about here through this whole conference. If I have 2 locations in Las Vegas, they have to list both the locations. That's done here so that people that are interested in maybe buying that brand's franchise can call franchisees, not just ones franchisors give you to call. You go and you see who all their franchisees are and you call. That's where that came from a long time ago.